the silent return. The galaxy celebrated peace, while Earth's forgotten fleet stirred in the darkness. For 300 years, the Great War had consumed entire star systems. Alien empires fought with weapons that could crack planets and shields, that bent reality itself. The Zephyrian Confederacy battled the Krillian Horde across 1,000 worlds, leaving behind burning husks where civilizations once thrived. When the Galactic Peace Accord was signed, every major power breathed relief. The war was over. Victory belonged to whoever could claim it first. In the golden halls of the Confederation capital, Chancellor Vex raised his crystalline goblet high. "Today marks the end of an era," he declared to thunderous applause. "Never again shall such destruction plague our galaxy." But in the cold depths of space, something ancient was awakening. Captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching stars flicker through reinforced viewports. His weathered face bore scars from battles the galaxy had forgotten. Behind him, his crew worked with silent efficiency, preparing systems that hadn't been active for centuries. "Status report," Kane commanded, his voice cutting through the bridge's quiet hum. Lieutenant Torres looked up from her console. "All Ghost Fleet units are responding, Captain. 237 vessels ready for activation. The sleeping giants are waking up." The Retribution was no ordinary warship. Built during humanity's golden age of expansion, it represented technology that current galactic powers couldn't comprehend. While aliens fought their primitive wars with energy weapons and kinetic shields, humans had transcended such limitations. Their ships existed partially outside normal space, powered by cores that harvested energy from parallel dimensions. Kane remembered the day Earth had vanished from galactic maps, not destroyed, but strategically withdrawn. The High Command had made a calculated decision: let the galaxy tear itself apart while humanity prepared for something greater. They had watched, learned, and evolved in isolation. "Sir, communications." Officer Blake reported, "We're receiving coded transmissions from Sector 7. The Phantom Fleet is moving into position." Across the void, more human vessels emerged from their hiding places. Ships that had been mistaken for asteroid fields suddenly blazed to life. Ancient battle stations, camouflaged as dead moons, began their startup sequences. The galaxy's sensors couldn't detect them yet. Human stealth technology made their vessels appear as empty space itself. Meanwhile, on the Confederation homeworld, Admiral Zeth reviewed the latest patrol reports. Strange energy readings had been detected near the galactic rim, but his analysts dismissed them as cosmic background radiation. The war was over. What threat could possibly remain? He had no idea that humanity had been waiting for this moment. The galaxy had exhausted itself fighting shadows, while the real power gathered strength. In silence, Earth's children were coming home, and they carried with them weapons forged in the crucible of patience and preparation. The false peace was about to end. Humanity's true war was just beginning. The first strike. The peaceful galaxy received its first shock when Outpost Delta 9 simply vanished. One moment it was there, monitoring traffic through the Helix Nebula. The next, only empty space remained, where a massive space station had floated for decades. No distress signal, no debris field, no explanation. Captain Kane observed the destruction through the Retribution's sensors. "Clean work," he noted with professional satisfaction. "The Wraith Squadron doesn't leave witnesses." The human strike force had tested their weapons on an isolated target first. The results exceeded expectations. Their phase disruptors didn't just destroy matter, they erased it from local space-time, leaving no trace that anything had ever existed. There. Back at Confederation Command, panic spread through the military hierarchy. General Thanes stared at the empty sensor readings, his forearms trembling with confusion. "This is impossible," he muttered. "Matter cannot simply disappear." There must be some explanation. But his science officers had no answers. The technology that could accomplish such total annihilation was beyond their understanding. They had fought wars with crude weapons that merely broke things apart. They had never encountered an enemy that could make reality itself forget. News of Outpost Delta 9's disappearance reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. The celebration of peace turned to nervous whispers. If someone could destroy a military installation without leaving evidence, what else might they be capable of? Kane studied tactical displays showing Confederation fleet movements. Their formations were predictable, designed for the old style of warfare they understood. They're clustering their ships like frightened children, he observed, perfect targets for what comes next. The second strike came at the Trillium mining colony. Unlike the outpost, this target was chosen for psychological impact. 3 million alien civilians called the asteroid cluster home. When human ships materialized from apparently empty space, the colonists had exactly 30 seconds to witness something impossible before they ceased to exist. The Retribution led 12 other vessels in the assault. They appeared simultaneously around the colony, their hulls shimmering with energy that bent light around them. The alien sensors couldn't lock onto targets that existed partially outside normal space-time. Lieutenant Torres coordinated the attack with cold precision. All units report ready, Captain. Phase disruptors charged to full power. Execute, Kane commanded. Beams of twisted space-time lanced out from the human ships. Where they touched, matter didn't explode or burn. It simply stopped being. The mining platforms, the habdomes, the transport ships, 3 million lives, all erased as if they had never existed. The human fleet vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind only empty space and cosmic dust. No evidence remained of the thriving colony that had existed moments before. Across the galaxy, sensor networks detected the impossible. Massive energy discharges from empty space, followed by the complete disappearance of an entire star system's industrial complex. The implications sent shockwaves through every government and military command. Chancellor Vex called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from dozens of species gathered via hologram, their faces showing the fear that had replaced their earlier celebration. "We face an unknown enemy," Vex announced, his crystal skin flickering with agitation. "Someone possesses weapons beyond our comprehension. We must unite our fleets immediately." But unity would not save them. The galaxy had forgotten that humanity existed, dismissed Earth as a primitive backwater that had destroyed itself in ancient wars. They were about to learn the price of that ignorance. Ghosts of the Void, the galaxy's united fleets, assembled at Nexus Point, a strategic crossroads where 7 major hyperspace routes converged. Admiral Kairos of the Zephyrian Navy commanded over 15,000 warships from 50 different species. It was the largest armada in recorded history, gathered to face an enemy that struck from shadow and left no trace. "Whatever is attacking our colonies," Kairos declared to his assembled commanders, "they cannot hide from this much firepower. We will flush them out and destroy them." The alien admiral had no idea he was walking into a trap that had been centuries in the making. Human strategists had anticipated this exact response. They knew their enemies would gather their forces in one place, making themselves vulnerable to weapons designed for such occasions. Captain Kane stood in the Retribution's war room, studying holographic displays of the enemy formation. Around him, the Ghost Fleet's command staff planned humanity's greatest military operation. These officers had trained for this moment their entire lives, some in virtual reality simulations that lasted subjective decades. "The enemy formation is exactly as predicted," reported strategic analyst Morgan Webb. "They're positioned in a classic defensive sphere, assuming we'll attack from a single vector. They still think in 3 dimensions. Kane smiled grimly. Then we'll educate them. Prepare the dimensional assault protocol. Across human space, massive installations that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations revealed their true purpose. They were dimensional anchors, machines that could tear holes in the fabric of space-time itself. When activated in sequence, they would allow the human fleet to emerge directly inside the enemy formation. The aliens detected strange energy readings seconds before reality tore apart around them. Space cracked like broken glass, revealing glimpses of the twisted dimensions that lay beyond normal existence. From these rifts emerged ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human vessels didn't just appear, they materialized partially phased, existing in multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow, sometimes solid, sometimes translucent, always impossible to target accurately. Admiral Kairos watched in horror as his sensors failed to track the invaders. "How many ships?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," his tactical officer replied, mandibles clicking with stress. "They're reading as energy patterns rather than solid matter. Our weapons can't achieve target lock." The Retribution led the assault, Kane commanding from its bridge with calm authority. "All units, execute Pattern Omega. Show them why the galaxy feared humanity." What followed wasn't a battle in any traditional sense. It was a demonstration of technological superiority so absolute that resistance became meaningless. Human weapons reached through dimensions to strike targets from impossible angles. Their ships existed in multiple realities simultaneously, making them nearly invulnerable to conventional attacks. The alien fleet's formation collapsed within minutes. Mighty dreadnoughts that had survived hundreds of battles simply vanished, erased by weapons that attacked the quantum foundations of matter itself. Others found their crews aged to dust in seconds as human time dilators created localized temporal fields. Commander Victoria Cross watched from the bridge of the Phantom as alien ships tried desperately to retreat. "Should we pursue, Captain Kane?" "Negative," Kane replied over the comm. "Let some escape. The galaxy needs witnesses to what happened here. Fear will be our greatest weapon in the days ahead." Of the 15,000 ships that had assembled at Nexus Point, fewer than 100 survived to carry news of humanity's return. Those that escaped told stories that seemed impossible, ships that existed in multiple dimensions, weapons that unmade reality itself, and an enemy that had been waiting in the darkness while the galaxy forgot they existed. The age of false peace was ending. Humanity had announced their return in the language the galaxy understood best, overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. The reckoning begins. News of the Nexus Point disaster spread through galactic communication networks. Like a virus, the impossible had become reality. An unknown enemy possessed technology that made the galaxy's greatest fleets look like primitive toys. Panic replaced celebration as civilizations that had just finished celebrating peace found themselves facing extinction. Captain Kane reviewed after-action reports in the Retribution's command center. The Ghost Fleet had performed flawlessly, but this was only the beginning. Humanity's true objectives lay far beyond simple military victory. "Phase 1 is complete," he announced to his senior staff. "The galaxy knows we exist. Now we begin Phase 2, systematic conquest of strategic systems." Lieutenant Torres pulled up stellar cartography displays. Intelligence reports indicate the Confederation is evacuating their core worlds. The Krillian Horde has gone into full defensive mode. They're abandoning territory we haven't even targeted yet. "Good," Kane replied. "Fear is more efficient than firepower, but we cannot let them consolidate their remaining forces. Initiate the Cascade Protocol." Across human space, sleeper agents who had remained hidden for centuries received their activation codes. These weren't traditional spies, but humans who had undergone genetic modification to appear as various alien species. They had lived entire lifetimes building positions of trust and authority within enemy governments. On the Confederation capital world, a trusted aide to Chancellor Vex revealed his true nature. Agent David Park had served as the Chancellor's military advisor for 30 years. When he activated the quantum transmitter hidden in his genetic code, it sent real-time intelligence directly to the human fleet. The Confederation's remaining forces are concentrating at the fortress systems, Park reported through encrypted quantum channels. They believe the ancient defensive platforms there can stop our ships. Kane studied the intelligence with interest. The fortress systems were indeed formidable, protected by shields that could deflect entire stellar flares. But their builders hadn't imagined weapons that could strike through dimensional barriers. The assault on Fortress Prime became humanity's masterpiece of psychological warfare. Instead of attacking immediately, Kane positioned the Ghost Fleet just outside the system's defenses and waited. For 3 days, human ships remained motionless, while the defenders grew increasingly nervous. General Thane commanded the fortress from its control center deep within an armored asteroid. "Why aren't they attacking?" he demanded of his tactical staff. "They have the advantage. What are they waiting for?" His question was answered when every screen in the command center suddenly displayed the same image. Captain Kane's face, broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. "People of the galaxy," Kane began, his voice carrying across every communication system in known space. "You know me as your destroyer, but I am here to offer you something your leaders cannot: truth." The transmission bypassed every security protocol, reaching civilian populations on thousands of worlds. Kane spoke with the authority of someone who had seen civilizations rise and fall. 300 years ago, humanity withdrew from galactic affairs not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. We watched you tear each other apart in wars that accomplished nothing but destruction. We waited while you developed weapons that could crack planets, but never learned to prevent the conflicts that made such weapons necessary. On Fortress Prime, General Thane frantically tried to cut the transmission, but human technology had infiltrated too deeply into galactic communication networks. "We return now not as conquerors, but as teachers," Kane continued. "The galaxy requires leadership that understands the true cost of war. Humanity offers you peace through strength, order through superior technology, and prosperity through unity under our guidance." The transmission ended with a demonstration. The Retribution fired a single shot at Fortress Prime's supposedly impregnable shields. The beam passed through the energy barriers as if they didn't exist, precisely vaporizing a single defensive turret. The message was clear. Humanity could destroy them all whenever they chose. The fact that they held back suggested they wanted something more valuable than simple annihilation. Across the galaxy, surrender offers began flooding human communication channels. The New Order, 6 months after the first appearance of human ships, the galaxy had been transformed beyond recognition. The old empires had collapsed or submitted to human authority. In their place arose the Terran Administrative Zone, a new government that brought order to chaos through technological supremacy and careful planning. Captain Kane now held the title of Sector Administrator, overseeing the integration of former enemy territories into humanity's growing dominion. The Retribution served as his mobile headquarters, traveling between systems to ensure smooth transitions from alien rule to human administration. "Status report on the integration process," Kane requested during his morning briefing. Commander Cross consulted her datapad. 93% of former Confederation worlds have accepted human governance. The Krillian territories are at 87% compliance. Resistance continues in only 12 systems. and those are isolated and non-threatening. The success rate exceeded even optimistic projections. Humanity's approach to conquest had been psychological as much as military. Instead of enslaving defeated populations, they offered partnership in a galaxy-spanning civilization that promised prosperity and protection. On former enemy worlds, human administrators worked alongside alien officials to maintain essential services while gradually implementing superior technologies. Starvation became impossible when human matter converters could create food from raw elements. Disease was eliminated by medical systems that could repair damaged tissue at the molecular level. Chancellor Vex, now serving as planetary administrator for his former capital world, addressed his people via global broadcast. "I know many of you fear our new situation, but I have seen humanity's plans for our future. They offer us something we never achieved in centuries of independence, true peace and unlimited growth." The transformation wasn't without challenges. Some species struggled to adapt to human technology and administrative methods. Others questioned whether accepting defeat was worth the benefits offered. But the alternatives were clear: cooperation or irrelevance. Kane reviewed reports from across the Terran administrative zone during a quiet moment on the Retribution's observation deck. Former battlefields had become thriving trade centers. Planets scarred by warfare were being restored using human environmental engineering. The galaxy was healing under humanity's guidance. "Sir," Lieutenant Torres approached with a priority. "Communication. We're receiving a transmission from the Outer Rim territories. Several uncontacted species are requesting audience with human representatives." Kane nodded with satisfaction. The demonstration at Nexus Point continues to pay dividends. Word spreads that cooperation with humanity brings benefits beyond mere survival. The irony wasn't lost on him. The galaxy that had forgotten humanity's existence now competed for their attention and approval. Former enemies sought to prove their worthiness as partners in the new order. As the Retribution jumped to hyperspace, carrying Kane toward his next administrative challenge, the stars themselves seemed different. The random chaos of independent civilizations had been replaced by purposeful organization. Trade routes optimized for maximum efficiency connected worlds that had been enemies for millennia. Communication networks allowed instant coordination across vast distances. The war that had ended before Earth arrived was indeed over. In its place stood something unprecedented, a galaxy united under human leadership, not through conquest alone, but through the promise of a future worth fighting for. Humanity had returned from the darkness, and the stars would never be the same. The new age had begun, and it belonged to those who had waited patiently for their moment to reshape the cosmos itself. The Ghost Fleet maintained its vigil among the stars, ready to defend the peace they had created. But their weapons remained silent now, their power held in reserve against threats that might arise from beyond the galaxy's edge. The Terran administrative zone continued to grow, carrying humanity's vision of order and prosperity to every corner of known space. The war was over, the future had begun.